Okay, so Randy's not here, Freddie's not here, Gil's not here, but the troopers are here. We got Jeffrey J. Davis and Ricky Potts joining you from the Craft Beer Nation for another Drunker's Choice Friday Night Hangout. I'm not going to be able to have the exact verbiage that Randy has when hosting, but this is my first time hosting, so from what I understand, he's not watching. Maybe he'll watch later and give me some tips. But as always, make sure that you check us out on Stitcher and on Google Plus and Facebook and Twitter and all those fun places. But the idea of the Friday Night Hangout is just about getting people together to sit around and talk beer. And once upon a time, we had styles that we would try to obtain, whether it's founders or porters and stouts or barrel-aged beers or high ABV beers, session beers, you name it. We've gotten away from that a little bit, and that's not a bad thing. And just over the last probably a couple of months, we've gotten into the idea of drinker's choice that's led to drunker's choice. And, as the night progresses, we get closer and closer to that magic number of drunk. But I'm only on my second beer of the evening. My first beer was a session sour from Dogfish Head. And I'm a little nervous, Jeffrey, that they're going to start doing this whole session thing, stealing off of the session IPA. Like, okay, I get it. I mean, what makes a sour a session? Because they're all pretty low ABV.
They're pretty low, yeah.
It's like, and this one was 4.9, and it wasn't. I mean, but I only got it for a badge because I'm a badge collector. But it was actually pretty good. Yeah, I know you can.
What's the name? What's the name of that one?
Sequench. It just hit the market here in the Valley.
Okay.
It's cheap. I mean, $2 for a single, and it was good. I mean, it had a nice like tart crispness to it, and it's not got a ton of sour finish. Like I wouldn't think it. I almost thought it drank like a Goza, like just a really basic, easy to drink Goza. The tartness really hung on in the finish though, so it was enjoyable, and it's still 110 degrees here in Phoenix, so it was nice to have.
And it will be for 11 more months, right?
Well, maybe we're this close to breaking the record of the most days at 110 or higher. So, but he's at dinner. I was trying to get my buddy Scott to join because he just impressed the heck out of me this week. So, me being the badge collector that I am, had a request for a couple of beers. Yingling being one of them that I can't get here in Phoenix. I know. Hey, I'd rather drink Yingling than Bud Light or Coors Light. So, and there was an apple ale from Best Damn that didn't come to this market, but there were 2 badges for that. It wasn't very good, I'll be honest.
What are you talking about? Like untapped badges?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you save those things? I mean, can you turn them in for free beer or something?
No, that's a good idea, though. We should be able to do so. I was actually just talking to Greg from Untapped on Twitter about wanting the ability when I unlock the badge to save the image from my phone. And at this time, that's not something that's able to be done. But
no, you can do a screen. I always do the screen capture. So
yeah, I don't know. I'm picky, and I want it to just be. And Greg showed me a workaround of doing it on the web. I'm on the web a lot because I'm a super user, so I have to do a lot of stuff on the web in terms of my monthly protocol. But with this box my buddy sent me, it was just filled with stuff, and a couple of them. Cheryl is actually in Chicago at some Geek Fest right now, so she's not here to be able to enjoy one of those beers. But one of these, he actually was at the brewery, I believe, a couple of weeks ago, and he sent me 2 cans of Revolver Truck from Toppling Goliath. And I haven't had a ton of stuff from these guys. I've had Pseudo Sue a couple of times. He included 3 cans of that, 3 cans of this, and a couple of other stuff. And it's just an oatmeal stout that even ice cold, just right out of the fridge, has just got a ton of flavor. The mouthfeel it's almost got like a porter-ish mouthfeel and finish, a little bit of that nickel flavor in the finish. It's not too thick or chewy at all, but it's super dark.
Oh, it looks good. Yeah, it's good looking.
Yeah, it's got a nice tan head, and the nose is just, I smelled it out of the can first, and it had nothing, and I was like, oh, it's going to be boring. And I poured it in glass, it just explodes with malt and just oaty goodness, and I'm a big fan. I'm gonna give it a 4 CBN caps because I got yelled at by Randy the last time I didn't rate a beer with CBN caps. But I enjoy finding new beers, obviously, because I'm just always trying to drink what's new and what's next. And I'm a big fan. And Scott, thanks for sending me a box full of goodies, and cheers to that.
Yeah, those guys are pretty highly regarded. I haven't many beers. I think I've had a couple on draft in Chicago, but haven't had their full range. But everything I hear, they're pretty solid brewery. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because he sent me a picture of the brewery, and it's tiny. Like, it looks like just this little itty-bitty house in the middle of nowhere. They're in Iowa, I believe, is where they're actually located. Yeah, in a city that I can't pronounce. Detroit, Iowa. But yeah, you're right. Like, I feel like everything that they release, and, Pseudo Sue is one of their more popular ones. That's just a damn good IPA. But,
Yeah.
it's like, this is a really good beer that when I opened it, I was like, I have no idea what this is. And I dig it. So, what's in your chalice this evening, sir?
Yeah, so I started off. I went for a run, and then I had a Evil Twin Molotov Light to rehydrate. But now I'm on to bigger and better things. So I'm on. This is one of my local breweries, and I pimp these guys really hard. This is Buffalo Bayou. Actually, my daughters live. Literally like 50 meters from this brewery, so it's quite convenient. Yeah. So this is their maple chili jam. These guys put out kind of an amazing array of beers. They do a lot of stouts. They do a lot of like kind of imperial brown or imperial red ales, which is what I would technically call this. But they're really big on like sort of flavored beers. So they've got a Bananas Foster. They've got Viet Saigon Sunset, a lot of coffee beers, a lot of coffee beer variants. They make a great gingerbread stout, a great Russian Imperial Stout, a great quad with figs. So, they're really into, sort of creative brews, usually around either a big stout or around a big brown or red ale. And I've been to a few breweries that are like that, and a couple of them are, a few of them, they don't really pull it off. It's kind of, most of their beers are kind of extracty, but pretty much everything I've had from Buffalo Bayou is legit. So I'm a big fan of these guys. They usually have some nice text on the label. Sweet heat with a touch of smoke, raspberries and blackberries up front, chilies on the back, aged on maple with a tangy dry pepper finish. Our childhood revolved around picnics and family barbecues, and having this would have made them a lot easier to get through. Dad's on the grill, Mom's slinging her special iced tea, you'll get it when you're older, and Grandpa's asleep, snoring like a buzzsaw and smelling like Charlie Sheen. Grandma made her famous maple chili jam. Better not call it jelly or she'll spend hours showing you the difference. Pairs well with brontosaurus ribs, creamed corn, and even your uncle's charred brick-hard attempts at a hot dog. So they usually have kind of humorous little paragraph on the side, and they're big on kind of the wax, colored wax things. This is at 8.8%. So it's pretty light. It's a reddish brown. It was well carbonated. I opened this thing before we went live, and it was a gusher, which I wasn't expecting. Most of their beers are not really that fermented, but I got some cleanup to do, and I got a few minutes. But great nose, and that up front in the nose, you do get that kind of raspberries and blackberries. I mean, it smells like somebody's just kind of crushing berries right in front of your nose. A little bit of smoke, a little bit of char, but it's mostly berries on the nose. But as you go through the sip, the front of the taste is fruity. You get those berries, then it kind of morphs to a little bit of smoke and chili heat in the back. So it's not a Rausch beer by any means, but it does have a little bit of a smoked malt, smoked malt character to it. And then at the back, you get a little bit of like. To me, it tastes like ancho chilies or something like that. Not big, but just a little bit, just to let you know it's there. And that's a nice. I'm a big fan of chili beers. I like them actually pretty aggressive, and this is pretty mild, but it's it's just enough to kind of say, I better have another sip of this bad boy.
So I'm curious because in a trade that you and I did a long time ago, one of our first trades, you sent me a bottle of stuff. That's the only thing I've had from those guys. What's their price point like? I mean, you don't wax a bottle if you're not going to charge 10, 12, 15 bucks for it.
No, they're usually you know, $8.99, $8.99, $9.99. Everything is 10 around $10. Nothing stupid pricey at all.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a really, you know, their distribution's pretty limited. I mean, they're basically Houston. They do, you see them in Dallas, you see them in Austin, but they don't distribute at all outside of Texas. But you can go to HEB, which is a grocery store, and at any given time they'll have probably 8 to 10 beers, you know, and they do rotate, you know, so they have a few beers that are kind of, they also can, so they've got a great double IPA called More Cowbell, which is one of my go-tos. It's just you know, stupidly hopped. I think it's 113 IBUs, but it's super refreshing. 9%, you know, sold in 16-ounce cans, so it's a great beach beer. They, you know, so they have that's always on. They have a nice wit beer called Great White Buffalo.
Yeah, that's what you sent me. Yeah, the Great White Buffalo.
And they've got like a brown ale, 1836, that are, you know, kind of always in rotation. But these others, they've got some kind of seasonals, and there's always something new. I mean, like every time I go to the store, you know, because this just came out. I've had this on draft like once, you know, a few months ago. I'd never seen it in the bottles, and you know, pretty much every time I go look at their shelf, there's something new that's kind of in rotation to try it out. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, you know, it doesn't. They do a pretty cool. You know, they don't have tours, but they do an open house on Saturday. So you go there at it's from like noon to 3, and it's just this totally chill environment. It's people bring their dogs. A lot of people, there's like a lot of run clubs that go running and then stop there afterwards. And you pay, I think it's $10, and they give you a glass and four tokens for beers, you know, and then you can buy as many other tokens as you want for $2. So it's a pretty good time. Yeah, if you're ever in Houston, it's I definitely recommend checking them out. And if you ever see their beers on the shelf, they're, you know, pretty much everything they make is pretty good. You know.
That's really cool. And, you know, so you say that they don't distribute outside of Texas. Is it just because of the size, or they just don't have the distribution set up yet? Because I feel like every time I've seen you talk about their beers, and I hear about their beers, they've got a great brand, and the beers are quality that kind of sounds like something that would be shipped to.
I'm just assuming that maybe they do distribute outside, but they're just not that big. I mean, it's like I think it's a 15 barrel system. It's not a, you know, it's not a huge facility. So I think that's the main thing. And, you know, and they're not trying to get huge. I mean, they're just trying to make good beer. So, and they've been kind of the same size ever since I've lived here for 2.5 years. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's good.
So I'm glad that we're able to have just, you know, the candid conversation between the two of us. And I know how you're going to answer this, but I got into a Twitter fight this morning, and it was interesting.
Why are you always picking fights, man?
Well, when you hear what this fight was about, you'll know why. So a friend of mine who lives in Canada posted a picture of wine socks yesterday. It said something about opening a glass of wine, and I responded, "Hey, well, beer is better. Cheers, whatever." Well, this morning she started talking about how she only drank Blue Moon, and I said, "Yeah, but that's not craft." And this, like, 4 or 5 people got into this pissing match back and forth about his Blue Moon craft and yada, yada, yada. And one of the guys in this argument had, like, a picture, his profile picture was, like, Blue Moon, like a 6-pack of Blue Moon. And I'm like, well, unless you're getting paid from Blue Moon.
Yeah, there you have it. Yeah.
But, like, what's interesting, though, because I don't consider it craft at all because of the fact that it's owned by the second largest brewing company on the planet. Yeah. But the side of their labels say artfully crafted, and I made the point that just because it's artfully crafted does not make it craft. And then
artfully crafted with 70% adjuncts, you know, potato, corn, and you know, rice,
and an orange wedge, because that's one of the only beers that I've ever seen fruited that I'll allow just in an effort to choke it down. Yeah. But what's interesting is he sent me a link that was from Consumer Reports that was a lawsuit that had been filed. And it's actually, I did some digging. It's the second lawsuit that's been filed of somebody saying that it's not craft. And both have lost. So legally, it is craft. But I was curious what your thoughts were, and I know that you're going to agree with me. But
well, no, my understanding was that craft beer designation was determined by a maximum barrels per year produced, and I forgot the number, but it's
6 million.
It's a pretty huge number, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
6 million. Yeah,
it's a number that like Lagunitas can slide under, you know, but it's not a number that Miller Coors or InBev can slide under. So, I mean, to me, that's the main thing. I mean, if you get to that size, it's not craft. That's a scale production beer that's probably not that great, you know. I mean, nothing personal. But I used to drink Blue Moon, you know. I mean, and I guess if you got a choice of drinking, you know, Busch or Blue Moon, I guess it's better, you know, but it's not craft. I mean,
yeah, exactly. And you know, I've had it before. I've had it 14 times according to Untapped, and I mean, and it's that situation. Oh well, I got Bud Light, or Blue Moon. Well, I'm going to take a Blue Moon all day long. And what it is though is the same way that I can give an ounce of respect to like Budweiser, that a Budweiser in New York is a Budweiser in Berlin, is a Budweiser in Moscow, because of the ability for them to create, and that's a hard style to brew. But the idea that it's consistent and Blue Moon is tasted the exact same from the first time I had it to the last time that I had it. It is the exact same flavor, and that takes some skill. But again, in my opinion, and most people that know what they're talking about, it's not craft. And I found it funny that there were 3 or 4 people arguing with me about it, and then the lady that actually kind of started it was like, well, I don't drink a lot of beer, and I don't like the flavor beer, which is why I drink Shock Top and Blue Moon. So she admitted that it didn't.
Where does she live in Canada? What city is she?
Let me look, because I don't even know.
Because I'm in Canada like all the time, a couple times a month, and they have great beer up there, man. So it's yeah,
they do. She's in Edmonton, Alberta.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, she's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but I'm sure she can get there's a couple guys that are actually in the Craft Beer Nation that are from Edmonton, and they do get beers there. So yeah, I love going there because I mean there's great beers there, and you know, you have great local beers, you know, like Le Doux de Sel, who makes Pêche Immortelle and other stuff.
Their beers are so good. Like, it's weird that they come from Canada. Like, you look at their bottles and their labels, and you're like, that's straight out of Belgium. And
But they have, you know, also it's because of, you know, partially foreign exchange and other things. But I was up there the last 2 weeks, and this one of the places I go to in Toronto called Bar Hop, and they had Schneiderweiss, you know, and you know I'm a huge Schneiderweiss fan. The Tap X Nelson Sauvin, which is, you know, it's a bottle that normally is $16 at retail, you know, in the U.S. and quasi rare, you know, and if you ever find it in a bar, it's going to be $30 or $35. You know, they had it for, you know, $22 Canadian, which is like $18, you know, in a bar.
That's like free.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sad that nobody else has been able to join us this evening, but it's been fun just sitting here chatting with you a little bit. I'm almost ready for my next beer. How close are you? Are we going to be able to get to our second before we?
Oh yeah, I think we should. I mean, just you know, let's enjoy this time together, Ricky.
Yeah,
this is a good time.
It is a good time together. So what? What were you saying?
I'll even pour and move to my next one because I want to extend this special moment that we're having.
Talk about something, because I'm going to go get my next beer because I'm already finished.
Yeah, good for you, man. So Ricky, you know, Ricky's a big fan. He doesn't want to admit it here, but he loves what he calls the 16-ounce crowler, commonly known as a pint can, and I think that's what he just had. He would call it a 16-ounce crowler. Most people would call it a 16-ounce can, but hopefully he's not going to bring back another 16-ounce crowler, because we know that those are like Sasquatch and they don't really exist. So it's a great beer, guys. You got it. If you have a trading buddy that can hook you up with Buffalo Bayou, yeah, you should investigate them. Great brewery. As this thing warms up, the heat's coming out a little bit more. You can see the kind of lacing still there, still good carbonation. So. La-di-da-di-da. Welcome back, Ricky.
Hey, thanks. Well, what was discussed while I was in absence?
We discussed your favorite beer format, the 16-ounce crowler.
The best crowler ever.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I've had this thought process that I want breweries that have like a Stone or a Ballast Point to do 4-ounce pours, 6 of them, and like that. I mean, they would cost a lot for packaging, but I'd buy them.
Why? What would you do with 4? Like you mean buy it at the store, like a?
Yeah, it's like a flight. Like a
flight 6-pack.
Yeah, I'd buy that all day long.
Why though? I mean, that's a lot of work, and that's super wasteful.
Hey, look, I know that it's wasteful, and I know that it's a lot of work, but it'll be made with recycled plastics. How about that?
Yeah, maybe. So
I grabbed
what are you moving on to here, buddy?
I've had this beer before on the Friday Night Hangout, but it changes I feel like every couple of weeks. So it's a Mike Hess Solace, and the beer is just awesome, and for a couple of reasons. One, it's just a very well done American style IPA. It's 7.5%, but he's one of the first breweries to use the open mic, as it were, the full top. So it's a no glass needed concept. So it's the whole top of it comes out, and it really does kind of make you feel like you're drinking it out of a glass right out of the can. And I wish that they would do that with I'm blanking on the name of it, the beer, the IPA on the East Coast that people just
Heady Topper.
Yes, you're supposed to drink out of the can. Yeah. That would make a better experience, in my opinion, if it had this to it. But so this is batch number 58, and it's interesting to me that every time he releases this beer, every 2-3 weeks, it's a new batch, right? Well, obviously it's a new batch, but he's changing something in it. So the beer stays Solace, but then on Untapped, it's a different batch every time it comes out.
And if it's not, you're setting it up as a new one so you can get your
I won't.
You liar.
No, I don't. But
you're a super user.
It just smells like a freaking. Close your eyes and you're walking through a forest and Flagstaff with pine cones.
Where are those guys? Where are they from?
California. Let me see if I can see what the city. I don't think it's San Diego, but it's Southern California.
I've never heard of that beer.
Yeah, it is San Diego. Yeah. So it's interesting though. So in Phoenix, and actually just yesterday they announced they're expanding. We have Huss Brewing Company, and this is Mike Hess Brewing Company. So a lot of people, myself, and I've done it more than once where I'm talking about a Huss and I say Huss, but vice versa. They did a collaboration maybe a year ago or so, but Huss Brewing is expanding here in the Valley, and the next time you're here, let's meet at this place I'm talking about, because it's not Huss, but the place that is part of this story. So Papago Brewing Company is not a brewery, so to speak. It's a brewery, but they don't brew at the location. They have killer food, 10 or 12 tap handles, just unbelievable bottle selection. But the beers that are theirs, like Coconut Joe, and they've got 4 or 5. Mike Huss. It's Jeff Huss brews those beers. Well, he was brewing those beers for Papago for the longest time, and then was like, hey, I'm pretty good at this. Can I do my own thing? And he opened Huss Brewing Company in the same space that he was brewing the Papago beers. They've gone over very well. He's got a beer called Magic in the Ivy. He's got one called the Hustler, which is a sweet milk stout. Just tons of really good beers, right? Well, he's growing exponentially, and he's decided to open a secondary location, and pretty excited to see their growth. And I'm actually going to sit down with him for an interview in a couple of weeks to be able to just talk a little bit more about his growth, and him and his wife own the brewery, and his wife's as involved. I mean, I've been there before where she's behind the bar filling pints. And
I'm pretty sure I've had a beer from them, but I can't remember what it was. So what are some of their, if I would have had something from them on a tap somewhere in Phoenix, what would that likely have been?
So Magic on the Ivy was probably, that's their hands down their most popular. I'm going to pull up their list right now to see what else you might have had. Huss the Hustler is their milk stout, which is really solid. They have Scottsdale Blonde, which is a blonde. Coffee Kolsch might be
I think I had that actually.
Dude,
I
it
think
is so good.
yeah.
It just looks like a freaking Pilsner or a Kolsch beer, and it drinks like coffee.
Wait a minute. Did you send me a can of that or something?
I probably
Yeah.
did because I like to throw in a couple of locals, and that's one that I have been including in a lot of my trays recently. And then they
You
have
substituted that for the kilt lifter in our last trade.
never again am I sending you kilt lifter, or I'm going to send you a box of like 20.
Yeah.
Either way. But
No, because when did we do our last trade? It wasn't that long ago.
Well,
It was
probably
like a year ago.
That's long ago.
Because I remember you sent me that and I'm like, man, that's kind of goofy. A coffee Kolsch. I mean, ugh.
Yeah, then you opened it and it was
And
delicious.
I'm like, man, this is freaking awesome.
It's interesting though because like a beer like that just flies so under the radar, even on a local scene. Because here locally we've got what used to be Fate Brewing Company, which is now McFate Brewing Company. Which that transition was weird, but I feel like it's kind of just in like a couple of weeks it's just kind of set into the local craft beer guys. It's always going to be Fate Brewing Company. Like they're always at the top of the conversation. Santan they make a lot of beers, but Santan and Four Peaks are kind of playing on the same level in that respect. They're the big guys that everybody's heard of. Scottsdale Beer Company is kind of the new kid on the block, but they're making some of the best beer in the valley. Helton Brewing Company. Now this was a cool.
I've never heard of those guys.
Brand new. They opened, let's say, 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago. So Brian helped. They've been opening for what feels like a year or more. And they finally opened, and I went in, and I didn't really have any expectations. The beers are legit. Like, he's only doing them, like, one at a time. And he's got 6 now, I think. And I ended up meeting – so I tagged him on Twitter, and it was like a Sunday afternoon. And Brian Helton comes over, and we start talking. And he's from the Midwest, and because he asked me where I was from.
Like
and he knew where Indiana was, which was exciting. And he had lived in Indiana, I believe, or close to –
Does he have red hair?
Maybe.
Okay, see, I told you.
So
My theory is intact.
He brewed at Rock Bottom for like 18 years.
Oh, really?
And was like, I'm over it. I'm done. And I don't know how he got from there to Arizona, but the building it's kind of in an up and coming part of town, not the nicest part of town, but also not ghetto. But like you're starting to see some, like Oso has a location on its Indian Bend is the road. Well, the inside of the place is just awesome. Like it's got like wood and like metallic tables and stuff. And I asked him about it, and I was like, "Hey, where'd you get the wood for this?" And it was imported from Terre Haute, which is not far from where I'm originally from.
Wild.
And like he's doing it right, and he just had a big write up today in the Phoenix papers. Because it's not just about the beer, it's also the food, and it's charcuterie type food. So it's very hand selected meats and cheeses, and he has a very big passion for pairing the meats and the cheeses with the beers, and it not being come in and get a pint, come in and get a flight and pair it with this board of meats and cheeses. To where the beers he's brewing, he may have an idea for the food before he brews the beer, and vice versa.
But can you just order beer without pairing with the food?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
But it's cool because it's new, and I always like when new places open. We had another new location open called Helio Basin. They literally opened, and I'm like, who are these people? I had never heard of them. I had no idea who they were. We go in. The guy that's the head brewer had brewed as an assistant brewer at Southern Tier for like 8 years. And was like, I just want to do my own thing. And literally opened this brewery, and it opened before they even announced really that it was happening. So that was probably right about the same time Helton opened. We went in, and their beers were okay. It's a gigantic space, and it didn't feel comfortable. The flight board was cool, but that's about all I remember. The beers didn't have me wanting to rush to come back.
So do you think they're like, having growing pains, or do they have potential to be like a real brewery?
And it's a real brewery. I don't feel like the beer quality, like when you see like a Helton that opens, and he opens with 3 beers on tap. Okay, well,
they better be good. They better be good.
They're all good. Pedal House is another newish brewery. They're about a year old. They opened the first 3 times, and I kid you not, the first 3 times I went in there, they didn't have any of their own beers on tap. And I'm thinking, you're a brewery. You've been open for months at a time now, and you don't have your own beers on tap. Now, I've been back since, and they have their own beers, and they're good. But again, it's not like I'm going to sit down and think about what medal they're going to win with this IPA, or what award they're going to win with this stout, or just very easily forgettable type beers. And I look at like a Scottsdale beer company that releases a beer called, I'm trying to think of one of their most, they have a double stout, like an imperial stout that is just silly good, and they've released 5 different variants of it. Or McFate did the candy bar milk stout, or like beers that I'm thinking about that the logo of the beer is on the side of a growler in my cabinet. Helio Basin and Pedal House and those places, they're not there yet. Maybe they get there one day, but today they're just they're not there. Yeah. But it's cool to see the growth that we're having here in the Valley. I mean, I still don't think the Valley gets kind of the respect on the West Coast-ish that it deserves for the craft beer scene that we have. I feel like we've got, there's 18, 20 brewing companies just right here in the Valley. And I think that there's, Arizona Wilderness, it's 2 years old now, 3 years old. They were the best new brewery, according to Rate Beer, when they first opened. They brew some just ridiculous stuff. They did a Goza series, actually the weekend of my birthday. And after my hashtag 33 beers for 33 years that turned into 40 beers, the next day we went to Arizona Wilderness, and they do predetermined can crowlers that are limited. So
16 ounce?
No, they're 32.
Okay.
They're actual crowlers.
Okay.
And they did a watermelon Goza, a smoked apple, a tangerine, and then they had one other one. And we go like in the morning at like 6 a.m., right? Like the doors open and they sell whatever they've got, and they're all gone the time we get there at noon or whatever. And I'm like, do you still have these on tap? And they're like, yeah, they're all on tap. I'm like, sign me up. Let's do a flight.
Yeah, exactly.
But what are some new brewing companies opening near you? What breweries are close to you that you frequent, and what are some new ones that have opened?
Well, first off, I am on my second beer, and I'm on beers I haven't had in a while. Clown Shoes Undead Party Crasher.
I love Clown Shoes. They stopped coming to Arizona.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's a shame. So this is a great stout. I love big stouts, and I cannot lie. And this is it's not a Russian Imperial Stout. It's just a big Imperial Stout. You got, looks beauteous.
Oh,
it's
gosh.
Friggin' pitch black. Huge chocolate, kind of dark chocolate, milk chocolate. Nice roast. It's got just a sexy ass mouthfeel. Coat your tongue is really delicious, and I think I paid $9.95, something like that. Not bad for a 10% beer. So yeah, they're a legit brewery. And I've on the Hangouts before, they do a lot of kind of regional exclusives. They've got a Texas regional exclusive called it's based off their the Blakehorn Unidragon. So there's a fistful of Unidragon, and the barrel aged one is now I'm drawing a blank. One of them has Chuck Norris on the cover, and the other has Clint Eastwood. But the fistful of Unidragon, it's a great beer. It's like 14.5%. It's Texas exclusive because they use these mesquite smoked malts. I love that beer. I stocked up big time. I got probably 15 bottles up in my cellar, but it's a great beer. But this is a good beer also. So most everything they make is very, very good. This is delicious beer. So to the question, I think, and just back to your region, it's probably not justified, Ricky, but the few times hey, we got somebody joining.
Scott. Right on, Scott. I yelled at him. I told him to join.
This is your bro?
Yeah, this is the guy that made the rover truck possible.
Nice. Welcome, Scott. Got a little bit of background noise going on there, but anyway.
You can mute him.
Yeah, well, how can I mute him? So he can mute himself.
Yeah, hover over. He might be on his mobile device. Oh, you just muted yourself.
Okay.
You hover over, in the right-hand side, there's a little upside-down arrow. You click that and click mute.
Oh, okay. He'll figure it out.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay. So, my perception of your region, the few times I've been there, is like there's some local beers, but I didn't have anything that blew me away. So I have probably an unjustified, lackluster opinion of the local scene. But most of these breweries you spoke of, I've never been to. So I'm looking for like a real tour next time.
Well, I feel like, you and I could just, when you are coming, let's figure it out and we'll
Yeah.
schedule, like a Helton is not going to blow your mind, but it's worth seeing. And
I
Arizona
don't
Wilderness
need to
is
have my
worth
mind blown.
seeing.
I just want to have good beers.
Yeah, Scottsdale Beer Company, you have to go to. I mean, it is just what's funny about their location. So when I was first coming out here, I remember that we used to go to this barbecue place, and it was before I ever lived out here. And I remember that, and it was a cool concept, right? So really good barbecue, a good bar. And behind the bar, they had these two giant porcelain bathtubs filled with beer and ice, right? Well, it was crap beer. I mean, Bud Lights or, PBRs, like just junk beer. But then they'd throw in some like really random, good, not whales by any means, like a Stone IPA or, something that was good. But everything was $1.99, whatever they pulled out. But
Did you have to like bob for apples to get them out of the?
No, the server picked, but when you ordered, you'd say tub 1 or tub 2.
Okay.
And it's a fun thing, right? Well, that place closed not long after I moved here, and then it was just empty for like 2 years. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Scottsdale Beer Company, and I'm like, awesome, we're getting a brewery. And everything they've been doing has been awesome. They do it's a beer called Project Dank that is super, super dank. I mean, it is just hops for days. They do the cool thing with, so you go in and they'll have 8 or 10 beers on tap, right, that are theirs. And then they have a brewer's handle that is 2 beers that are 5-gallon batches. When they're gone, they're gone. The beer that I was thinking about earlier is called Texas Tea, and they might be on their 6th batch of it now, and it changes every time because they're tweaking with it or whatever. But then they'll throw vanilla in it, or they'll throw cinnamon in it. And now on the brewer's handle, so they'll do a 5-gallon batch of the Texas Tea, make it unique, and then promote it. Well, I want Texas Tea by itself is legit. Let's go get it, and it drives business. And the beer scene is kind of, they flock to that. But
Yep.
yeah,
Nice.
you need to come and spend a whole day, a whole Saturday just bouncing around brewery to brewery, because it's interesting though because they're all kind of spread out.
Yeah.
Like it's Wilderness is the furthest from. We have another one called 8-Bit Brewing Company that's fun.
Yep.
All based on Nintendo, basically video games. Like the guy that owns it's the brewer, and just again, it's not mind blowing, but he makes a handful of stuff that is just really stinking good. So like talking about like a Helton, or getting swept under the rug like a Hess. I can't point to Huss. I point to Hess talking about Huss. See how easy it is to get the two mixed up? Like, Huss is so forgotten, so to speak, and they make really good beer. I mean, and I hate that they're so far away, but Scott just made a good point. He must be watching, because he said, I forgot about the Beer Research Institute. That's the name of the brewery, is the Beer Research Institute.
I like that. That's
yeah,
a good name.
and it's in a strip mall. It is the size of my living room. It is tiny. The service, I hope they're not watching, but the service sucks. Beer is awesome.
Okay.
Like, it's just a cool little spot, and Scott's actually, he was there the last time he was visiting, and
How can I unmute him, by the way?
same way that you muted him.
It says muted, but when I click it, it's like I can't make it.
Oh, he might have to unmute himself.
Okay. Maybe he's muted. Is that him?
There he is. That's his
Okay.
hat.
Nice hat, bro.
Yeah, I was best muted because I'm at an Applebee's.
Applebee's.
That's awesome.
Stay classy. Stay classy,
We were
Phoenix.
talking about Blue Moon a few minutes ago, so you might have to order one of those just for old time's sake.
Where are you in, like Betancourt, Iowa, or something?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of nowhere, North Dakota.
North
Oh, my
Dakota.
goodness.
Okay, nice.
Yeah,
So the Applebee's is like the craft beer joint up there.
pretty much.
I'm actually building a facility in Cheyenne. Is that North Dakota or South Dakota? That must be North Dakota, I think.
I thought it was Wyoming.
Oh yeah, you're right. Wyoming. That other state in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. Sorry, man.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Oh, look at that. What are you
I was
drinking?
amazed to get Oktoberfest Oktoberfest. Like, is it that time of year already? Really?
Yeah, it's August. It's August, so it's October time. Yeah.
Yeah. Pumpkin beer. I had a pumpkin beer last night, actually.
I had a pumpkin beer this week, but it was an Avery pump KYN from last year. So yeah.
That's a expensive and delicious. But have you had Rumpkin?
Yeah, I have that too. I have a couple of those in the. Yeah.
Nice.
I'd like to try Rumpkin with a year on it because I felt like it was a little boozy fresh.
These are both. The ones I have are both from like 2 years ago, and they're still a tad hot. You know, a couple years later. It's just a big beer. It's not going to mellow that much. You know.
I think Rumpkin is a better beer, but you know, pumpkin is it's, you know, 'tis the season. I had a Sam Adams pumpkin that was called 20 Pounds of Pumpkin was the name of the beer, and you know, I had Pumpkin Down, I think. I want to say Piper Down, but it's Pumpkin Down from Ballast Point. And, I mean, it's just it's hard. Like, again, from where I live, it's so hard like to open. I mean, granted, I like a big, you know, we had a growler of AleSmith Speedway Stout basically for dinner the other night, but like a pumpkin beer when it's 110 outside, it's just no pun intended again, hard to swallow because it's. But at the same time, I mean, I'm going to be in Europe next week. Like a week from tonight, I'm going to be sitting at Stone Berlin having beers, and it's going to be like 70 degrees or cooler. And just to think that, you know, the 'tis the season, I say, it's the season for those beers to be hitting the shelves. And you know,
but what you'll find, Ricky, in Germany, pumpkin beers aren't a thing. They don't do that. I mean, you know, it's Reinheitsgebot. It's half of Weizen all year long. You know.
Happenstance was going to be we were going to be in Berlin, but the weekend that we get there next weekend, it was scheduled to be the grand opening of Stone Berlin. So right now they've only got the beers but no food, just light snacks or what have you, and they moved it back a week. So it's the second week of our trip, and we're going to be in Belgium for Brussels Beer Week, or for Belgian Beer Week, and I reached out to the brewery and I was like, hey. Not that I was making it sound like we were coming just for the grand opening, but I was like, kind of coming a long way. What can we still see the brewery? Like, I'd love to get a peek or a tour or whatever. She responds, and she was super nice. She responded in like 20 minutes. She's like, yeah, just let us know whenever you get here that you talk to me, and we'll get you in and give you a tour of the brewery before it gets open so you can see everything. That's really cool that you're coming over here. I responded back, and I was like, how many beers do you have on tap that are yours? Because the Stone Berlin beers are technically different than the Stone American beers, even though Stone IPA is Stone IPA. And she responds that they had as of like right now, they have 25 different beers on tap, and I'm like, that's pretty impressive. Do you guys do flights? Me wanting to try all 25. She's like, we don't really do flights, but we'll do a flight for your party, and we'll, you know, just let us know, and we'll do little 0.75 milliliter pours of everything, so 4 ounces or whatever. She's like, and we'll take care of that, no problem. So flight's on us. Thanks for coming by. And I'm like, good on you. Like, that's really cool to think that they're willing to go above and beyond and do that. And they're celebrating 20 years this weekend. They have a big beer festival in San Diego. My buddy Matt and actually a whole bunch of my friends are in San Diego this weekend.
Yeah, James R. is going down for that. So.
And see, the beer list is silly. Like, it's pages of just. I almost wonder though, like, if it's too big of a, like, I don't want to call it a festival. I mean, it is a festival, but like, I almost feel like you're just going to be standing in line all day waiting to get beers because they've got, I want to say, 8 through 12 of the vertical epics. They've got all the like. Just a laundry list of the Stone Berlin beers.
I think having that many, you know, it reduces the line. I mean, there's so many good things. It's not like it's, you know, typically there's 20 beers and 15 of them are, you know, mainline beers and 5 of them are whales, you know, and people are all lined up for the whales. So you got that many beers. It's you know, there's enough. It'll diversify the lines. Let's just say so.
Well, the Stone Escondido location does not allow dogs, so we don't go there anymore because we take Charlie with us anytime we go to San Diego. It's cool though that, like you said, that Buffalo they let dogs. Like, it feels like it's just the way it should be.
Yeah.
I mean,
beers and dogs go together. So I just want to tell you one thing, because this is like we're dialing way back. This is about the Kolsch, the coffee Kolsch.
Yeah.
So there's a huge beer rivalry between Dusseldorf and Cologne. So in Dusseldorf we drink, and that's where I was working. So we drink alt beer, and in Cologne they drink Kolsch. And it's literally this is like it's a rivalry like you can't imagine. Like a guy from Nordrhein-Westphalia, Dusseldorf area, that's piss. I would never drink it. So, and the same thing from Cologne. I mean, it's like they can't imagine drinking the other style of beer. So, I'm not from there, but I worked there for 3 years. So, like, when you sent me a Kolsch, it's like reflexively, I almost have to like pour in the toilet, just because it's a Kolsch, But that was actually a good beer. So yeah. So you have these very weird like regional beer rivalries, and the Dusseldorf Cologne alt beer versus Kolsch beer is like pretty famous. So
I don't know, but I feel like I've heard stories that Australia is like that, to where if you're from a certain part of Australia, you don't drink beer from the other parts.
Yeah.
Like it's just like you just don't. Very similar to that, not as intense as that. I graduated from Purdue, so I understand rivalry, the IU Purdue concept, and the whole college.
But you guys all drank the same beer, though, right? I mean,
yeah, it was Coors Light.
Yeah, Coors Light. Yeah.
Tap the Rockies.
Exactly. Hey, I think we should probably wrap this up, Ricky. I mean, even though we just got a few of us, it's been a good hangout. We talked about a lot of stuff. We had a couple beers. We had some good times, special memories. So, kids, stay tuned to the Craft Beer Nation. We're all about educating folks on beer and having a good time and sharing good beers. Check out our pages on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Skitcher. Google Plus, of course, Stitcher, Skitcher.
I don't use
Skrillex, and whatever your podcast channel of choice. We do a lot of great podcasts, Pints and Quarts, Friday Night Hangouts. So check it out and drink good beer whenever you can. Peace, kids. Cheers.
Cheers.
Jeff.
Hey.